Hey there, welcome to Coffee Break Plans. I hope you're having a great week. Today I'm going to go through my planner stack for its mid-year review. This is where I take a look at everything that I'm currently doing, figure out if it's still working, and also at this stage I'm going to think about what changes I'm going to make for the rest of the year, and sometimes looking at what I might do for next year. I'm going to start with my Franken planner. This is a big boy. It's where I do all of my forward planning, and I have 4 separate calendars in here, 1/4 at a time, and I do all of my task and time management here. I recently did a big refresh of this coming into quarter 2, so I'm not expecting a lot of changes. We have the 3 sections here at the front that I've had for quite some time now. I have my future log, my lists, and my notes. And the future log is really handy, particularly as I only ever have 3 months in here at a time. It's really good for if something comes up. For example, for these months, which I don't currently have in the planner, I can write down what the dates are and what the event is. And then when I do add those months in, I then transfer items from here straight into those months. In the next section, I have my lists, and this is where I note anything that I need to buy or current projects or whatever on these lists. And I've just noticed I've done 2 of those. Things in here don't get done and they don't move a lot, but that's the entire point of these lists. They are outside of my main goals, my main tasks. They're not really anything super urgent that I need to get done right now. It's nice to keep these lists for when I need them. Final section is my notes. This is where I keep a little stack of lined pages, and I take notes when I need to. I do try and move my notes out reasonably frequently, otherwise I end up with a big wodge of pages in here and it bulks up the planner when it doesn't really need to. So I check them and action them or move them or discard them, whatever it is that needs to be done. So into my personal calendar, at the moment I'm using the dashboard layout, and it provides quite a bit of structure. So you have some boxes over here that you can use in various ways, and then, of course, you have your main 7 days of the week over on the right hand side here. That's working really, really well. I usually have quite a lot of room left on this at the end of each week, and I'm starting to think maybe a little bit too much. I may look at swapping to another format later in the year, but that is going to depend on a few things that I don't know right now, so I will need to have a look at it later on. For now, it's going well, and I will continue with this layout. I also run a creative section. I've actually redated an old planner here from 2025. So you can reuse your pages that are from previous years. There's no need to throw them out and buy new. Always reuse when you can. That's my mantra anyway. So I use a vertical layout, and each row I assign to a particular, what I call creative project. So the top one I normally have reserved for my theatre stuff, the second one for my channel, and the third one I put for other, anything miscellaneous or that I need to keep track of. I allocate tasks for each project for a particular day. So I may decide that I'm going to do theatre set design on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to do scripting and filming for the channel. And on Friday, I might be going out somewhere, or I might have something else planned. And then on the weekends, I will usually have a couple of things allocated. This really helps me to plan out the task and make sure things get done, and also make sure I don't get too overwhelmed. I say too overwhelmed because I'm normally overwhelmed. My third section is here. It's labeled stress management, but I think a more accurate description might be wellness. When I bought my pages for this year from the Happy Planner, I bought a stress planner extension pack, which gave me 6 months of this layout, and it's undated, which is really handy. And each week I assign to a particular focus. So next week, so we're coming up May 25th on Monday, I've assigned for exercise. Now I added this in quarter 2 because I wasn't meeting some really basic health goals like getting to bed on time or getting enough water. So with this, I focus on one health goal each week. Of course, I also focus on the other ones, but it's a real focus on that one particular goal that I have that week. So if everything else turns to custard, I think, no, I'm just going to focus on this one thing. So I've been using this for a month and a bit now. Sometimes I don't fill it out. So this is this week. This is actually where I am now. And you can see I focused on the front end of the week. Then I felt ill with a cold again. And ironically enough, when I'm sick or when I'm really busy and I need this the most, that is, of course, where I end up not doing it so much. Most of the time I make it up to 5 days of the week. 3 days of the week is great. it is really helping me to focus on that. And I've already started drinking more each day and focusing on getting to bed and getting to sleep at a more reasonable hour. Later on in the year, when I get really busy, I may need to drop it. Again, always when you need it the most. But it is undated, so I can just pick it up later on, and it may end up staying. We'll see how we go. Sometimes life just gets too busy and you can't do everything that you intended to do, and there's not much you can do about it. After all that, we are now into the goals and projects, and I still haven't renamed this. I did a big revamp of this in Q2, so around about March, and changed this up a little bit. I used to have pages and pages of goals sorted in here, and I do still have that to a certain extent. So I still have a monthly summary of goals for May. I have some June ones ready to go. These are April's. I just flipped the page over and reused the back. I now have a whole pile of sections for some specific goals and projects. Each one is different, so my health contains my sleep trackers, whereas if you go to my theatre one, it contains a 3-month task plan for everything I need to get done. The last section tucked in at the back here is my work section, and I've been using I think I can probably turn to a blank page here somewhere. I've been using a horizontal layout for this, and I leave it tucked at the back here where it doesn't distract me from life and vice versa. At work, I use digital planning tools way more than I use anything else. When I say digital planning tools, I mean my calendar and Outlook. That's where I do most of my time blocking, and it's obviously where I have all my appointments set. I do like having my daily task and meetings list and having it set out on paper in this layout here. The horizontal layout is working well. I just put any appointments in here and what time they are. Then I usually write down what my time blocks are going to be. Anything that's going to take less than 10 minutes goes in here. I use Saturday and Sunday to list next week's priorities and any other projects that I have come up. But I'm using them because they're there. I don't really need them. So almost half of my layout is going to waste. And as you know, there's white space and there's wasted space, and this is wasted space. So I really do think I need something different for my work planning next year. I'm really reluctant to change it though, because I changed it, I think, about 3 or 4 times last year before I settled onto the horizontal. So I don't really want to change it at all again this year. But next year, I think I'm going to start looking at something a little bit smaller. Finally, I have a few daily pages stashed in the back for when stuff gets really hectic and I need to have more of a breakdown of what's going on each day. So that's the Franken Planner, which I'm leaving pretty much as it is this year, with some ideas for next year to explore. Okay, we are now on to my daily planner where I keep my trackers and journals. So I'm using a Sterling Ink A5 full year, and this is in Tweed. So of course it comes with the year at a glance at the front here. There is a blank spread at the front of the journal that I am using for what I call my 8 great days. What I do is I pick out a photo and print it out, write a little blurb about it. It's just a little memory keeping page of some of those things. That's working well. I then have my health trackers, and this is the health things that I can't control. But it's really simple. If I have it that day, I stick a dot in. It's just frequency. There's no sense of scale. So it's whether I have it or not. That's all I need to know. My next set of trackers are my quarterlies, and I have a little bit of health stuff. I've worded it and designed it so that if there's a dot, that's a good thing. If there's no dot, that's a bad thing. In my monthlies, I keep track of what we're eating for dinner. Now, some of that is just to fill the space, but some of it is also because I really want to compile a list of the main meals that we prepare and start putting together a bit of a meal plan for us. Not this year, that's going to be a next year project. And into the meat of it, I'm showing you a page that hasn't been filled in because this is where I put my personal stuff. So at the beginning of each month in this journal, you get one plain page, just June at the top. And I've been using that as a currently page. I do a little bit of tarot, I do a little bit of what I've been watching or reading, and I do a photo of the month. For each daily page, I split it. In fact, I can show you a shaded one. For the daily pages, I split it into a third and 2/3, and I highlight every second line, and then I just put in a kind of a high level rough time track of what I did for that day, and then I write my long form journaling here. At the end of every single month, there is a blank spread here, and I've been using this as a photo montage. So I'll go to Canva, put together a whole pile of photos that I've taken during the month, print them out, and just glue them in. And right at the back I have my sleep tracker, which is a photocopy of the tracker that I keep in my Franken planner. And I just copy it, size it down and glue it, because my sleep tracking is actually part of my health tracking. So I do want it in here with the rest of my health trackers. And I just didn't want to have to draw my own sleep tracker on this tiny, tiny grid. And then once all my 12 months of sleep trackers are in here, there will be about 4 pages left, I think, which is perfect. So I think my goal in this journal was to use every single page, and there is a lot packed into this book. I spend about 10 to 20 minutes every day in this journal, and at the moment we're in May 2026. I'm still enjoying this process. I wanted to get back into long form journaling after about a decade away from it, but I strongly suspect that by the end of this year I will have well and truly had enough. I still want to continue with journaling, but I'd like to do it in a much shorter format. So for next year, I will look at options for doing that. And I will also look to scale down to something not as intense. What I'm looking for is something that has some trackers, it has room for a brief entry every day, some spare pages for extra notes, and that's it. The next on the list is my reading journal. However, I am going to cover this in detail in a whole separate video. In summary, this is the last year in this particular notebook. There's enough pages in here for this year, and then that's it. I'll need to move into a new notebook. I'm going to do a flip through and an assessment of what I've been doing for the last 3 years, and I will look at what I'm going to do next year in that video. So we're on to the smaller books now. This is my commonplace book that I set up last year in a video. I used to do all my commonplacing straight into my bullet journal when I was bullet journaling. But then, of course, once each year's journal is put away, I would then lose the information to the archive. So although I can go get the bullet journal out of there anytime I wanted, I just thought it was a shame to lose all these little details that I'd obviously found amusing or insightful. So I set this up and I'm steadily adding to it and or transferring the items from 7 years of bullet journaling across to here. There is pretty much the whole of this book to go. So I will keep this for 2027. And last but not least, I'm on to my 5-year journal. Unfortunately, I really can't open it because it has stuff in it. This is a Sterling Ink 5-year journal. There are different versions of it, but in the Sterling Ink 5-year journal, you have 1 page for each day, and there's room on the page for 5 entries, so 1 each year for 5 years. I am into my 3rd year of this, and I will continue to do this for the rest of the year and for the 2 more years after that. That's that for my mid-year stack. Everything is staying the same, at least for this quarter coming up. I might tutu with some stuff here and there, as I always do. I will sort out what I think my 2027 planner stack will be. But for now, have yourselves a great week, and I will see you next time.